starting a short mini series on other people's holidays. So, at The Constructionists, we encourage a worldview that's built on the principles of Christ. And in this episode, we are examining these holidays through a clear and honest lens. We continue this series next week as we're going to take the 23rd of November off for Thanksgiving and continue on the 30th. So, by doing these types of discussions, we hope to offer insights and perspectives that will help you in your own journey towards a greater understanding of love and compassion for yourself and others. So, we want to assure you that in tonight's episode, we will not be fabricating anything. We're just going to give you the data and the information and the ideas. And if we do make some guesses, we're going to tell you that. And we're also going to tell you where you can find more information on the topic. So, our goal is to provide an authentic perspective on our examination. So, we call this our thinking space, where we're presenting thoughts. And tonight we're making our best attempt to explain practical theologies to live by. So if you enjoy the Constructionist podcast and want to support us financially, please go to the link in the chat or show notes on the social media platform you're listening to and visit our Give page. So your support will enable us to continue producing high quality content like this. But even more important, we want to hear from you and engage with you on direct messaging or email or however you want to message us, because we believe through our interactions in discussion with listeners like you, we can continue to learn and grow together. And your valuable feedback, questions, and ideas, we can build a communal hermeneutic of shared explorations of different perspectives. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us and let us know what you think. So Sharia and Jake, thanks for joining me on this episode of Other People's Holidays. So we came up with this because everybody talks about Christmas. Christmas is an important holiday, and it's a very dominant holiday in many cultures. So even if you go to different countries that celebrate other holidays for their religions, you will see Christmas sprinkled throughout other cultures. Christmas has been a very dominant holiday for a long time. Christianity is a dominant religion amongst the monotheists. So there is a lot of, well, I guess there's a lot of people that celebrate Christmas all over the world. So we're not saying that Christmas is not important. I just think that other religions have other holidays to honor and to think about and to maybe even just view or even participate in that they don't need to be forgotten, and they don't need to be thought of as secondary or not necessary, because for many centuries, people have celebrated different holidays for different reasons. It's not necessarily different gods, but different cultural ideas, or maybe different familial traditions. So holidays are celebrated for different reasons, not necessarily for religious reasons. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to start with just two major categories of religion. And we want to keep this in mind that there are many categories of religion, but the super mega, I guess, mondo religions would be put in two different categories. And one would be monotheism. And then the second category is the Vedic faiths or Veda faiths. And Veda is the precursor or the pre-religion to India and Hinduism. So out of then Hinduism, then you have lots of different branches and different movements of religion within Hinduism, birthing out Buddhism and such things. So you have monotheists, and then you have the Vedics. So today we're going to focus on the monotheists. We do have two or multiple categories of monotheism, but let's just call it two. The first category of monotheism would be the Abrahamic faiths. So that would be Judaism, that would be Christianity, and that would be Islam, birthed in that order. Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Those are the Abrahamic monotheistic faiths. There are many other monotheistic faiths, though, and that would be, let's say, the second category. all monotheism means is to believe that there's only one divine power, to believe that there's only one deity, all supreme being of the universal cosmos, referred to as God. So that's what monotheism is. And I guess a distinction of monotheism is exclusivity. So, exclusivity of this is the God. There are. There are different kinds of monotheisms that probably would accept other types of secondary or lower categories of gods. But for the most part, monotheism is the singular existence and exclusivity of this is the God. So they steer away from, I guess, pluralism. They steer away, monotheists steer away from multiple gods or multiple god forms and things like that. I would say that the religious system then around monotheism or around the worship of one God then points all of those holidays or all of those celebratory times towards that one God. So when I was saying that there's holidays that people celebrate that don't necessarily pertain to the religion or pertain to the gods, those you will see more in the Vedic faiths. But in the monotheistic faiths, you pretty much have most of the major holidays being pointed towards this singular existence of God. But some things that I learned this week, I did not know that Baha'i was considered a monotheistic faith. I thought there was a couple of deities in the Baha'i faith, but they would be considered a monotheistic faith, just like Christianity is monotheistic. Baha'i faith is monotheistic. Sikhism is monotheistic. Even certain forms of Hinduism are monotheistic if you choose one of the manifestations of Vishnu. So you have like Shaivism or Vaishnavism. There are a couple of religions or traditions within Hinduism that honestly they would be categorized and fall under the rubric of monotheism. So, of course, Islam and Judaism. But how about Zoroastrian? I can't even say that. Zoroastrianism.
Zoroastrianism.
Yeah, thank you. That is considered a monotheistic faith. Yahwism and some ancient Chinese religions are monotheistic. So we're going to camp on Abrahamic monotheism versus this other kind of just this wholesale category of monotheism that includes all of them. We're gonna camp on these. Why? Because well, I would say that we know them the most. We know them the best. We've researched and done our homework for many years on either Judaism or Christianity or Islam. And so we're picking Judaism first, and then we'll go into the Islamic faith. And again, I would say that the holidays that are celebrated become very limited and very focused towards the celebration of this one exclusive singular existence of God or the acts or the power or the performance of that God. So
Can I
so
interject one
either it's
thing?
worshiping that God or the acts of what that God did.
I think the word that we're looking for is monolatry, and it's the worship of one God, even though there's beliefs in other God. Like you can believe there's other gods, but
Oh, yeah.
which one do you put forth? Like
Yeah.
Judaism did not become monotheist until well into the 400s
Mm,
CE, and so
yeah.
so the idea that like we worship one God,
Hmm.
Christianity has had to have this huge wordplay hurdle to become monotheist through the Trinity, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so, even though we say we're monotheists functionally we're
Mhm.
polytheists. That's kind of interesting, I think. But now Judaism and Islam that we're going to talk about today I think, are the most monotheist religions that we have.
Well, what's interesting is most religions have a holiday that declares when that God was declared God. So the like Babism, right? In Babism, they have a holiday, and their major holiday is when they declared Bob, not Bob, Bab, right? They declared Bab the God. That is, I guess, just the declaration of their founding of their faith. We don't, as Christians or as in the Abrahamic monotheistic faith, we don't declare that day. When like the Shema, we don't declare or we don't celebrate around the Shema in a sense as Christians. So that's really
The
interesting that most other faiths, like Buddha's birthday, like Buddha Day, or when the Nirvana Day, in
let's,
other
can
faiths,
we go
that's
back
when it's
to the Shema
declared.
real fast? Do you want to
Yeah.
explain what that is?
I am the Lord God is one. So that declaration in the Torah is the Shema, that God is one. That idea that God is our God and God is one. That is the statement of Shema. And the Shema is not necessarily like, we don't have a holiday in August, right? That says this is when we declared that, or God declared to us that he was our one God. Because before that, Abraham would have been a polytheist. It's actually referred to in ancient Hebrew. God is referred to as, the rock or the great or the sky, or there's different connotations of the Elohim, that is kind of declared as almost polytheistic in nature. So Abraham would have been polytheistic, and I just found that an interesting point when you brought that up, as monotheism is this idea that we believe in this God, and this other word you used, I can't remember right now, um, is the belief in
Monolatry.
that one God. What is it?
Monolatry.
Yeah, yeah.
Monolatry.
That one God, you believe in that one God, and then there's many other gods that you can believe in.
You
I think,
worship that one God, and then you.
yeah, I think that's probably where Abraham came up with that, or that's what Abraham went through, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Good.
okay. Well, let's move to Judaism. That's where we're going to
Okay.
start. And we're going to talk just openly and honestly about Judaism, and just uh, what holidays Jews celebrate. And there's more than Hanukkah. So we're going to talk more than Hanukkah. So Shrey, you're going to take this section. So lead us out.
Mhm. Okay. I got to choose your own adventure thing. Do you want to start at the beginning of the year, or do you want to start at the winter holiday?
Why don't we start at the winter holiday? Because that's where
Okay.
we're at. We're leading up
It
into
is. Yeah.
Christmas. And so we should start at the winter holiday of these. Yeah.
All right. So that is, in fact, Hanukkah.
Yes.
So Hanukkah is an 8-day celebration. This year it falls on December 7th through December 15th. It's the Festival of Lights, and it commemorates the revolution led by Judah the Maccabee to drive the Greeks out of Israel and reclaim the temple. We find this story in the Apocrypha, in the books of First and Second Maccabees. So if you want to look it up there, you can. Um, Part of the story goes during this revolution, as they're in the temple, they tried to light the temple menorah, but only had enough olive oil for one day. Um, and that olive oil lasted 8 days until a new ritually pure batch of olive oil could be made. And it was a miracle, the miracle of light. So this is celebrated by placing a new candle on the menorah, or lighting a new candle on the menorah each night, for 8 nights, to celebrate those 8 days of the olive oil lasting. The menorah is placed in a window where it's visible, and then prayers are recited, blessings are recited, songs are sung. It's common to enjoy foods that are fried in oil, again, hearkening back to that olive oil miracle. It's common to play the dreidel, which is almost like a gambling game. And then it's common to give gifts or money, particularly to children.
I only think of Adam Sandler, 8 Crazy Nights, when I think of Hanukkah.
Yep.
I wish I had more of a context for it. That's all I got.
You want to know a weird one? What comes to mind for me is Rugrats. Rugrats did a Hanukkah episode.
Okay.
What comes to mind for me, and this is going to be pretty sad, is
I had Adam Sandler,
my
so
neighbors.
I don't know if it's sad.
Well, my neighbors are Jewish, and they put out a Hanukkah and a menorah candle and a Star of David and stuff out at Hanukkah time, starting on the when does it start? Give me the start date, Sharia.
12/7.
December.
So
not every year, but this year that's what it is.
Okay. So they put out the symbols during Hanukkah, and they're the only ones on the street that celebrate Hanukkah, and it reminds me of how Jews over a long period of time have been just an oppressed nation, that they are just this like put into a category, or they're thought of as this small group. And so when you include a menorah candle, like in a city celebration, or the lighting of the Christmas tree, in one of the towns that I lead an organization in, we have a menorah candle, or excuse me, we have a menorah candle at the bottom of this big Christmas tree, and everything is about the big Christmas tree. Nothing is about the menorah candle. And I'm trying to figure out this year, because I lead that celebration. I'm trying to figure out this year how to point our attention to the menorah candle. And so I think we can get there, but it's for some people, it's going to be a rub. Like you're doing something else besides a Christmas tree and the star at the top. And it just seems like that the menorah candle or the Hanukkah celebration is sometimes forgotten, and that makes me sad.
And then when it is remembered, it's just a tokenism.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's, I would say that as a Christian, that's where we came from. So to actually, give honor to where we came from is pretty important. Mm-hmm. So Hanukkah. Are there any ways that Christians can celebrate Hanukkah? Can we?
I think the best way would be to celebrate with your Jewish friends rather than hold your own independent holiday, because that's appropriation.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to go
you can make French your best attempt at latkes, but...
Yeah.
What?
We're going to have French fries for Hanukkah.
Well, I would say those are latkes or latkes or however you pronounce that, latkes. Um,
Mhm.
so I would say the fried food, potato food. We can make our
Yep.
best attempt at that, but I think participating
where we can.
in somebody else's
Yeah.
celebration and just being present for it is I think
Bring your
something
neighbors
honoring.
some latkes.
Right. Here's my best attempt. And then they actually give you some good ones, right? Do we have any rituals, like some significant rituals besides the menorah candle that is done during, I guess, food, the menorah
Food,
candle, and
yeah.
then
Gift giving,
yes,
singing
okay. What
songs,
kind
and
of
reciting blessings.
got it? What kind of gifts are given? Did you do any research on the gifts?
I didn't. I don't know if there's any particular thing that you're supposed to give. Um, I did see that money was the most traditional thing to give.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay. Yeah.
the what I read, the way it was worded, was that because this is a consumeristic society, it's moved more to gifts rather than money.
Okay. Yeah. Because kids want to give kids want kids want to get gifts, right?
Hmm.
Do- And is
I
is that
remember a really good friend that was Jewish. I think his last name was Spielman, and we didn't participate in his holiday, but we were very aware as children of his holiday. He was a grammar school friend of my
Hmm.
brother's, his same grade, and they used to give chocolate coins. And so the
Okay.
chocolate coins was the can't remember. I'm just gonna look it up here really quick. Um,
does it have
yes,
connection like Jubilee or anything?
it's Hanukkah gelt. And so
Hmm.
Hanukkah gelt is the representation of money given, but it's a lot of what we got was chocolate covered gelt or chocolate gelt. So it's a
Right.
fake coin that is made in the shape of money.
Mm-hmm. It,
Jake, I'm not aware of a connection to Jubilee.
Hmm.
hmm.
That's something that we could actually do as Christians, is we could give Hanukkah gelt um, to people just as a symbol and a reminder of this is Hanukkah, or maybe have that out in our offices in a bowl or something that people could, because we put chocolate
Mm,
out for other holidays like
yeah.
Halloween and such. And so we could do that in honor of that, not to appropriate and not to, take somebody's holiday, but maybe just to actually maybe put a sign that we remember Hanukkah during
Hmm.
this time or something like that. We don't want to be or just, tipping our hat to it. So,
Right.
especially if we have Jewish people around us and Jewish people in our office building or in our places of work of some kind, I think it would be important to see what they wanted as a representation of their holiday, not just to dominate with a Christmas tree and star at the top. So,
Hmm.
what other Jewish holidays do we have outside of winter?
Yeah. So as we follow the calendar year, the next major holiday would be Purim, which occurs in 2024. It's going to be from March 23rd through March 24th. It's a 1 day celebration, but because of the Jewish observance of holidays and how the day works, right, there was evening and morning the first day. The
Hmm.
holiday starts on the evening of the 23rd through the start of the evening on the 24th, and that is a 1 day holiday.
And what
So,
is what is the significance of it?
of Purim,
Yeah.
Yeah. So that celebrates the salvation of the Jewish people from
Mm.
Haman's plot to, I mean, essentially exterminate the Jewish people. Was this in Babylon? It was in Babylon.
Mhm.
And they were saved by the actions of Mordecai and Esther.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So Purim is observed by reading the book of Esther, by giving money to the poor, by giving gifts of food, by celebrating, having a feast, dressing up in costumes. What I read is that it is a time to let your hair loose.
Nice.
Interesting. Okay. Cool. So that's a 1 day holiday,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it is a big party.
a big party. Pronounce it one more time for me.
Purim.
Purim.
Purim. Okay. Purim.
Mhm.
Purim. Okay. Very good. All right. Let's just continue on then. Let's.
Yep. Next one is Passover, and this is going to occur next year on April 22nd through April 30th. We're fairly familiar with Passover. We've gotten to participate in Passover feasts in Resonate's history, but
Yeah.
it follows the Exodus story. So, celebrating the liberation of the Israelites out of Egypt. It's practiced by removing all leaven from the home, by holding the Passover Seder, where you eat the bitter herbs and the matzah and the 4 cups of wine, and everything on the table is representative of something in that Exodus story.
Which
I didn't go super
is,
in depth on Passover
yeah.
because many of us have experience with this one.
I
Those
think
who don't have experience that are listening,
Mhm.
Passover or the Seder, the meal or the time that you spend, uh, some interesting points, and maybe we can just jump in and share interesting things that we've learned during Passover. But from a Jewish perspective, and when you do a traditional Jewish Passover, you pray a blessing over the meal after, or you pray the blessing of the meal after the whole thing is over. So, a major difference between like our grace before meals and their grace at Passover is their prayer of blessing of the food is at the end. I found that very interesting because it was almost like not mystical. It was, hey, we've eaten this food, so bless it to our bodies. Actually, we actually are in real time asking for this to happen. Um, so I thought that that was kind of an interesting concept. But the metaphor of Passover is quite beautiful as it relates to the Exodus
Mhm.
narrative and that story. Do you two have any like special experiences with
well, I
Passover
think
you want to share?
it's the most unknown recognized holiday in the Christian tradition
Mm,
because communion or Eucharist or whatever
Mhm.
ever you want to call it, if your church does do that or you do that, um, that's hearkening to the Passover every single time. And so
right.
the dipping of the bread, the taking of communion is a Passover portion. And
Hmm.
so we just have adopted that pretty heavy in Christianity. And so it makes a lot of sense when you're sitting down and you're breaking the bread in 3 pieces and you're hiding one and one's found and it's hidden away, and there's a lot of metaphor around it, and I think that we have to be careful not to be anachronistic with our take of Passover to Christian wash it.
Mhm.
Well, let me just ask you a question. Isn't that what Jesus did?
Jesus did a lot. I think
Just throwing that out there. I just was wondering.
I don't think so. Um, Although like metaphors and stuff were used, But to just say that is the only thing that it is wrong. Like, this can be nothing else
Oh.
but
Mhm.
this is the fulfillment of Passover, the Seder. This is like it makes sense to us, but as hopefully you're not just doing Seder with Christian people, and you have Jewish people and other people there with you. Um, it means something much different to them as well. Um, but yeah, Jesus' use of scripture and metaphor would not fly in how we use it today,
What
in our rules of engagement with it.
when you said anachronistic, I was thinking, how much more anachronistic can you get from using something that is ancient that other people did, and including yourself, and then just calling that yourself? Oh, by the way, this cup is me,
It's my blood.
and this bread is me. So I just kind of laughed when you said that, because it's kind of
Yes,
adopting it.
I think it's better for Jesus to say that than to us to say this is us.
Right. Right. Totally.
But yeah, rules of engagement with tradition and text would not fly today. Like how Jesus used scripture and how Jesus used metaphor. It's different than we're allowed to, and should be. It's we could have a whole segment on that.
Well, I think Christians are very many Christians. I won't say all Christians. Many Christians are very surface level, and so they're not dug deep into their Bibles. They're not looking at Old Testament traditions.
We call that nominal.
They don't know the meanings of certain things. So at first glance, right, when you like see something or something's introduced, you're just totally, you might be enamored with the subject, or you might be enamored with the ritual or the act, and then you read all of your own experiences and context. And if those
Yeah.
experiences and contexts are just Christian and a certain branch of Christian, you just start adopting those. And so we'll see there's Jesus there, and there's Jesus there, and look at Jesus here. And that's really kind of, I think, dangerous theology. But a lot of people do that.
Oh yeah. And then to finally have them realize that Jesus was Jewish,
Oh yeah, it's just, for some people that is just a mind
mind
blower.
blow.
Well, I mean, just think about how many people actually know the reason for the Christmas tree. You know, where the
Tannenbaum.
actual Christmas tree came. People don't even know. Like, they don't even care. They just put it up every year, and
That's in week 3 though.
yeah,
We can do Yule, Sanheim, and Tannenbaum in
hmm
week 3.
we need to. That'll be on the 30th. but yeah, because we just adopt things and we don't even know where the roots of them come from, or we read things into something because we don't know where the roots of where they come from. Sharia, give us a little special experience. Have you ever had a special experience with Passover?
Um, I think just the way the things on the plate are meant to bring you into the story.
Mm.
So you're not just hearing the story, but you're meant to be a participant. So, for example, eating enough horseradish to make you cry over the loss of the temple, or like dipping the bitter herbs in salt to represent bitterness and tears. It's meant to be participatory. It's meant to help you to find yourself in the story, because the Exodus story is one of liberation. And so it invites current participants to also work towards liberation.
Mm. Awesome. Well, I think that Passover is a beautiful celebration. And I think every Christian, especially if you want to know the history and the backdrop of communion, Eucharist, I think it's really important that we spend time with Passover. This is where the concept of the afikomen comes from, where the hidden bread, and then the children go and find the hidden bread. This is where that idea of breaking that bread and doing this in remembrance of me, that is the Passover meal. The search for the Holy Grail, that cup of blessing, that new covenant which is in my blood, do this in remembrance of me. That idea of the Holy Grail, which some people think that they have it in a church, probably in France or Spain. Other people think that it's still lost. So the search for the Holy Grail, Monty Python, that idea of the Holy Grail is that chalice that Jesus would have had during Passover. So
Indiana
there's
Jones found it, so it's okay.
oh, is it Indiana Jones? Isn't it Monty Python too? Weren't they on the search
Yeah.
for the Holy
Yeah.
Grail?
There's
Yeah,
a lot
okay.
of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. So whether it be Indiana Jones or the Monty Python series, it's just an interesting study to actually walk through and to participate in, especially with Jewish people that actually can walk you through the Exodus version of that celebration of that meal. All right, Sharia, take us through some more.
Yep, I
Are we
got three
are we
more.
going to get out of Judaism on this episode?
We may not.
We might
It's
not.
okay.
Three more.
Okay.
And the next one is Rosh Hashanah, which is the Jewish New Year. And this falls in September this coming year. Or no, never mind. This year, 2023, it was September 15th. Next year, it will be early October 2nd, because Hebrew holidays follow the Hebrew calendar, not, what is this one, the Julian calendar?
Gregorian,
thank you. So Rosh Hashanah
we
is
follow a makeshift Gregorian calendar.
Yeah.
And it's based on solar and not moon.
Right. It's Jewish New Year. It's considered one of the high holidays. And so in the morning, on both mornings, the shofar is blown, usually in the synagogue. And so that's kind of a call to worship, a call to pay attention, signaling that these are holy days. Rosh Hashanah involves a feast. There's usually challah bread, apples dipped in honey, and other sweet treats, which represent a desire for a sweet year ahead. This holiday also involves candle lighting and a refrain from creative work.
Interesting.
That's pleasant.
That is nice. Rosh Hashanah.
So that's Rosh Hashanah. And then 10 days later is Yom Kippur.
Wow,
Yom Kippur is...
It seems like those two back to back. Wow.
There's a lot of Jewish holidays grouped in the fall and the winter.
And those are considered high holy days. Both of those are high holy days.
Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are both high holidays. Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
So Yom Kippur is 10 days after. It's the Day of Atonement and is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. So it is hearkening back to after the golden calf incident, when Moses went up the mountain to plead with God and then descended back down the mountain. Sins were forgiven, Day of Atonement, everything is brought back to oneness. Historically, the high priest would offer incense and prayers in the Holy of Holies. And then this is also marked by the blowing of the shofar in the morning. It includes reciting Psalm 27, and all of this is meant to build an atmosphere of reverence. It
Could you
involves
imagine?
5
Could you
prayer
imagine my neighbors
services,
doing that? That would be awesome if my neighbors did that in the morning.
Around
just right
home.
out in the middle of the cul-de-sac.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Right there. Right there. Yes.
Most of the day is spent at the synagogue. There are 5 prayer services throughout the day. Um, and the Day of Atonement also involves a fast. This is a fast from food and drink, from bathing, from sex, and from leather footwear, which represents comfort.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's about like depriving oneself.
So
And then you
soft
end
Uggs
the.
would be okay because that's comfort.
I don't think. I mean, maybe if they're fake leather.
Okay.
And then you end the fast with a feast at the end of the Day of Atonement.
So I have known Yom Kippur uh, just with food that you're not even allowed to like even touch food that day.
Mm,
Like not even
okay.
prepare it. So and maybe I'm wrong there. I'm just kind of reflecting back on my history with that holiday.
Is that similar to Shabbat, where cooking involves
Mhm.
work, so you're not allowed
I
to?
think so.
Mhm. It's creation.
Yeah, you're not. You're
Hmm.
not. I think, and maybe we can just do some quick lookups that Yom Kippur is a. There's something to do with food that you can't like. You can't get ready for the feast. The feast has to be like a together experience, or at least
So,
that's
like,
what
you
I
put it together before the
together.
fast starts, or you got to
Yeah,
cater it.
or you have to put it together in the end.
Okay.
So, yeah, but maybe we can do a quick deep dive. Okay, keep going because we're
Last one.
okay.
Last one of the major holidays, anyways. There are minor holidays also.
Right.
This one occurs 5 days later, and this is Sukkot, or the Festival of Booths. So a
Mm.
Sukkot is an outdoor hut that is covered in vegetation, and
Mhm.
it commemorates the journey from Egypt to the Promised Land. So remembering the days of wandering in the wilderness. There is no work on the first day of Sukkot. It's a 7-day celebration, so you're living in this booth for 7 days. Um, and another one of the rituals that is a part of Sukkot, it's called the taking four kinds. So the kinds are different kinds of vegetation. Um, Traditionally, a citron, which is a citrus fruit, a palm frond, a myrtle twig, and a willow twig. And so you'll hold these in a bunch and wave them in the 6 directions: north, south, east, west, up, and down. And this represents unity in diversity in Israel.
This is so. What's the food that they have during the Festival of Booths?
I didn't find anything about any special food, but you're
I,
cooking
I
outdoors, you're eating in your booth.
yeah. So Jake and I have a friend named Bruce, and we were having lunch with Bruce one day, and he said that um, he had to run because he had to get to another dinner. And oh, that's fun. Where are you going to dinner? And we thought he was going out to dinner. Oh no, we're having dinner with some friends. And what
It
is the
took us a
booth
while
called
to
again?
draw it at it. Sukkot.
Sukkot.
Sukkot. So he said we are going to have a dinner um, in the Sukkot, and and of course we're having lunch with him, and Jake and I look at each other like, well, we know that word, and Jake looks at me and goes, "You mean the Festival of Booths, like that?" And he said, "Yeah, like how did you know?" And so it was just kind of like a funny there that we connected all those dots, and then he described his friends how they built this Sukkot and how they had this outdoor kind of thing.
Hmm.
Um, with the covering, the specific to what you described,
Mhm.
and then they were having dinner underneath this Sukkot. He had made mention that there was some kind of special food, and maybe that was just for them that they decided on what that food was
Family
going to be.
tradition. Yeah.
Yeah, or whatever. But I thought that was just kind of I have never in my 51 years of life ever had anyone mention to me that they were going to go and have dinner
Camp out.
in the Sukkot for the Festival of Booths. I was just like, okay, that's a first. That's awesome. So anyway, that was just kind of a special connection to that holiday.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Any other ones, Dre?
So that's that. No, that brings us back around to Hanukkah.
So what are some minor holidays? Like there's minor ones that I've looked up before. Um, and of course every week there's the Sabbath, the Shabbat.
Mhm.
The Sabbath is very unique to Jews because it's supposed to be, and very um, strict tradition, supposed to be adhered to very carefully. Now Christians have adopted the Sabbath. We know that when Sabbath in Scripture is talked about, Sabbath in Scripture in the New Testament is usually in reference to eternal life. And so the ultimate eternal Sabbath is heaven. And so we know that that's a metaphor in the New Testament. There are some Christians who practice Sabbath just as a healthy routine. I think it's healthy to take a day off, but there's no strict boundaries or edges to their Sabbath. They're
Mhm.
just doing their thing, reading their books
I
and
mean,
taking a day
with
off.
blue laws, there definitely used to be,
There used to be, yeah, there used to be.
especially in the
Well,
U.S.
I would say that there was blue laws that gave the day off of Sabbath or a day off of commerce economy. Um, but I would definitely say there was no boundary edges or rituals around that blue law day. Um, but I would say that probably seventh day is probably the only Christian tradition besides smaller, like of the mega Christian branches. I would say Seventh Day is probably the most well known Christian group that has strict rules around the Sabbath. Um, So we have Sabbath every week. For
Mhm.
Jews, that is the time frame from sundown to sundown on Friday night to Saturday night. That is their tradition of Sabbath. No working, no, there's not a lot of preparation of food, things like that. So we have that one. That
Mm-hmm.
would be considered a celebration or a holy day,
Mhm.
holiday, a holy
Yeah,
day.
I think
Um,
the cool thing with Sabbath and what I think Western Christians put Sabbath in the category of self care, which is
Yeah.
necessary and needed. Um,
Hmm.
Yet Sabbath is more about other care, in that
mhm.
Yeah.
when you stop buying and when you stop making people work, that
Hmm.
you're allowing the poorest to rest.
Right. I try my very best on high holidays like Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mhm.
High holidays meaning just cultural American holidays, right?
Yeah.
That I really try not to go shopping. I don't. Our cafes are closed on Thanksgiving Day. I don't want to participate in the
Mhm.
economy on Thanksgiving, because it's a popular day for people to run around and buy stuff. And I
More
think
and
that
more so
there's
now
just
too. Yeah.
something, yeah, there's just something that doesn't feel right at this moment in my life. I remember working Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I hated it. I always felt taken from, and that my boss was mean. And so I just and we got over it, but it was a recovery. Like there was recovery. And if you have to go through recovery from working on a day, um, there's something
Then you
wrong
must
there.
work in a restaurant.
You might, yeah, you might work in a yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
I think there's just something inherently like a little bit wrong with that. I'm not trying to judge anybody for making their employees work, because hospitals, they have to be open, and I honor that. But that's necessity. That's like frontline worker stuff. A coffee cafe is not frontline worker stuff.
We were
So
called that though.
yeah, we were called essential workers. So I think that there's
Because
something
we
to
were
be said.
caffeinating doctors
Yeah,
and nurses.
There it is.
I think there's something you said. If you're a business owner, just a word to business owners, I would say that making space and room for your employees to have days that they celebrate. So making room for your employees to have Sunday morning off
Mhm.
if they go to
All that
church,
observance. Yeah.
or a Friday, Saturday night, Sunday night service, or whatever. Making space, that if you do that, then I think that you, well, and I think without being discriminatory, you have to do more than that, and to look at other people's holidays and say, well, what's important to my employees? And some will say that's not important to me. And you're like, okay, it's not important to you, then I won't make emphasis of it. But some people are very traditional, want to participate in their religious practices, and I think making space for that is important. So I think that as an employer, um, we should probably think through uh, being closed on certain days, and honoring, giving the Sabbath, like giving some days of rest. How about just being closed intermittently through the year? Like we're just closed for staff recovery, staff reprieve. We're giving our staff a paid day off, and we're going to be closed on Monday today. Um, I think that that's important. So,
um,
well, I think that pretty much took our time for this episode, and it was very good. And I really appreciated, Sharia, your research and thoughts in it. And so we're going to continue this mini series. You never know, it might turn into 6 weeks, but we're going to continue this mini series next week with Islam. Maybe we'll get into some Vedics as well, but we'll talk about Islam next week, and the Muslim faith, and how they participate, or what holidays they participate through, as we continue with the monotheists, the specifically the Abrahamic monotheists, with next week with Islam. And then we'll go into Hinduism and Buddhism the following week. Maybe. We're not sure. But we'll come up with the schedule on the fly as we go. So thanks for joining us tonight. If you want to support us, go to resonatelife.org. Go to the Give page. That'll be in the show notes of the social media platform that you listen to. So with that, good night, Jake. Good night, Sharia. Thanks for joining us.